Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of the Autoimmune Rehab Podcast, where, as always, you can find show notes and listen to and download previous episodes online at autoimmunerehab.com. I hope you ladies are doing well, and in today's episode, I am going to address a topic that I know is a really common one, something that I see talked about a lot on social media, and things that I know sometimes people are a little bit frustrated by. Because when you go to a lot of doctors, what do they do when you first have Hashimoto's? If they're not a naturopath or a functional doctor, or they're not some kind of doctor that is committed to digging deeper, they just prescribe you medication and say good luck. Well, in today's episode, we're going to talk about why medication is not enough for Hashimoto's and why there really is no quick fix or quick pill for Hashimoto's, and what you need to do instead to gain control of your Hashimoto's and actually start thriving instead of just surviving. So the question I want you to think about, which is a really common one, and I know this is pretty much true for everyone that has Hashimoto's, is do you have Hashimoto's and you've been given thyroid medication and you've taken it like you're supposed to, yet you still feel like crap? Well, like I already briefly mentioned, the reality is that medication isn't enough for Hashimoto's. So let's get started with talking about why it isn't enough and what else you need to know and do if you have Hashimoto's. Now, I also want to remind you and make you aware that I have several other episodes on Hashimoto's, including a couple of interviews with other guests. My blog at annalarbrown.com has several episodes or blog posts, is actually what they're called when they're on a blog. And including things like things I wish I'd known if I was looking back in time to when I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which, by the way, is the date of this recording. It's been just over 5 years. I was diagnosed in January of 2018, and this episode is coming out in June of 2023. So, I guess going on almost 5.5 years. And my doctors think I probably had it for almost 5 years before that, if you know anything about my story and some of the challenges I went through. But that's not the purpose of this episode. The point is that I have a lot of other information out there about Hashimoto's as well that you can research if this is something that you are dealing with, or you have a loved one who is and you want to try to help them. Okay. So what exactly, let's start by talking a little bit about the background behind what happens with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is the full name, and why medication is really not enough. So Hashimoto's thyroiditis is a type of an autoimmune disease that affects the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland produces the hormones that regulate the body's metabolism. It also can regulate your body temperature, can also have an impact on your overall well-being, on how tired you are, can create a lot of fatigue in a lot of people with Hashimoto's if they don't get it under control. And what happens is your immune system creates antibodies that are actually attacking your thyroid gland, which can in turn damage it. And you can even end up having to have your thyroid removed if it gets bad enough. That said, even if you get your thyroid removed, you still are technically going to have some of those antibodies from Hashimoto's. So that isn't really even a cure or solution in and of itself. So standard treatment for thyroid hormones and issues and hypothyroidism, different things like that, is taking a synthetic thyroid medication. And that can help manage some of the symptoms. Like one of the most common was levothyroxine, and currently, as of the date of this recording, I am still on it. I am working on trying to eventually get off of it, but right now I'm still on it. Sorry, for those of you listening, I just got to take a brief drink of water there. My throat just got a little bit dry. And I don't like to pause recording, so I'm just going to continue going there. And what happens is that thyroid medication can help to balance your thyroid. In a lot of cases, it can help balance things like your TSH, your T3, T4, things like that. But it doesn't address the actual autoimmune component with your antibodies. And there really is no thyroid medication that will do this. There are some herbs, natural remedies, things like that, that have claimed to be able to have an impact on it. Personally, I haven't really found any that have had a significant benefit for me yet with that. But some of the things that you may want to consider trying is, I've heard things like aloe vera juice can help. Trying to think what else out there. There are just some different formulas, different things like that that supposedly can help. But like I said, I personally haven't found anything great that will really address just that. That said, there are ways that you can get those antibodies under control, that you can strengthen and fortify your immune system and get it so that at least you feel like you're in remission, even if maybe your lab results state otherwise. So that's really the core issue, is that the medication just doesn't treat the immune part and the autoimmune part of your thyroid that you have challenges when you have Hashimoto. So it addresses, the balancing of some of the other things in the thyroid, but it doesn't address the autoimmune component. So that's the main reason why medication is not good enough for Hashimoto specifically. Okay, so then there are a couple of other issues I also want to talk about that will explain why medication isn't good enough for Hashimoto's. So the first one is that you may actually have other autoimmune issues and other autoimmune diseases. Hashimoto's, also goes together with things like celiac disease, rheumatoid arthritis, or lupus. And if those go untreated, they can cause even more damage than Hashimoto's. And so a lot of people that have Hashimoto's also have other autoimmune conditions. Personally, I'm lucky enough that at least at this point, I haven't been diagnosed with anything else. And I don't think that I have anything else. Sometimes I may have a symptom here or there that may pop up that may think I possibly could have another issue, but I eat super healthy. I do gluten-free and sugar-free 100% of the time, dairy-free most of the time, and, pretty much don't eat anything that is processed or comes out of a box or a package or something, unless it's like, brown rice or jasmine rice or something like green beans or that are in a can, something like that, canned tuna, things like that. I don't eat, in other words, processed packaged food that has a big long ingredient list. And so that definitely has had a big impact on my health. And so if you're looking for a baby step, I would say that that is definitely something that you want to start with. So the second problem that you may encounter with Hashimoto's is you may have food sensitivities. Like I kind of already mentioned, or intolerances that can exaggerate the inflammation and damage your gut and the thyroid gland. You'll need to address before you can really get full healing. And some of the common ones include things like gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, and nightshades are common, as well as lectins. So what are nightshades? Nightshades specifically are things like potatoes, but not sweet potatoes. So like just your regular white or red potato. Also peppers. So any kind of like green pepper, red pepper, bell peppers, that kind of thing. And also eggplant as well is considered a nightshade, and so are tomatoes. I personally have not noticed that peppers or eggplant really cause me any issues, but tomatoes can cause me issues if I have too many of them. And personally, I don't eat a lot of potatoes. I do eat some occasionally, but that doesn't have a tendency to be a huge issue for me. And then the lectins are things like found in a lot of grains and beans. So lectins are things like what's in your just any of those beans and peas and things. However, and even to some degree in peanut butter. Personally, I haven't really noticed those to be a big issue, but the biggest way to overcome that, if you feel like you're having an issue with lectins, is what I've heard, is to make sure that you pressure cook them, and that can help reduce or eliminate the lectins. Same thing happens if you use, say, like canned peas or canned green beans or canned chickpeas, canned pinto beans, that kind of thing, instead of just trying to buy your own and then just cooking them without doing some kind of more advanced pressure cooking to help reduce the lectins and things, because a lot of times it has to do with the way that these things are cooked is what causes some of the issues with lectins. And there's a lot of research things out there that you can take a look at. A lot of times when you first start researching food sensitivities, diets, things like that, you'll come across what's called AIP, or the autoimmune paleo diet. Personally, I am not a fan of it. I did another podcast episode on why. The short version is I feel like, especially over the long term, it creates eating disorders in people because it just eliminates too much and it's too restrictive, and it's also super expensive if you really stick to it. So anyhow, just something to be aware of. And there are tests out there that you can do for food sensitivities. I did one called the ALCAT quite some time ago. It was actually even before I knew I had Hashimoto's, but I probably was already starting to get Hashimoto's at the time I did it. And I don't know if ALCAT still exists. I heard from some people that it's not around anymore, not sure what the deal is there. But anyhow, you can get some different tests. And if you feel like that's something you want to do, you can research the tests online. A lot of chiropractors will offer them. Some acupuncturists will offer food sensitivity tests. But the point is, you really do need to change your diet and get to the bottom of what kinds of things are bothering you and reduce or in some cases eliminate those things. And gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, and nightshades and lectins are some of the common things that can trigger flare-ups in Hashimoto's. Okay, so then the third reason why the medication may not be enough is you may have some nutritional deficiencies. So some patients struggle to absorb nutrients and they experience fatigue or weakness. So you want to treat your hormone thyroid levels with the medication. Usually a lot of times, I mean, sometimes you can do it without it, but you also need the right balance of a lot of good nutrients. So things such as iodine, selenium, zinc, vitamin D, B vitamins, iron. So I take a specific thyroid supplement that I can link to in the show notes. It's from a retired naturopathic doctor who got into the business of now supplement formulating from a company called Restart Med that's located out of the Phoenix, Arizona area. You can just order it online. And I definitely have noticed that that makes a big difference. And then I also take another supplement called Nito 2 Max from doTERRA, which helps with the adrenal glands. And I will link to that in the show notes as well. But these two things, addressing your thyroid with the nutrients and then also addressing your adrenal glands. A lot of people don't realize, especially if you're tired a lot, have a lot of fatigue with your Hashimoto's, you probably have some adrenal gland issues that you need to address as well. And I also already did another separate episode on Hashimoto's fatigue that came out as of the publication of this, probably just a little bit over a month ago. And so, you can go back through the archives and find that episode and listen to it for some more advice as well. Then last, but certainly not least, is addressing the toxins and toxicity in your environment. So environmental and metabolic toxicity, things like mold, heavy metals, and pesticides can also damage your thyroid and cause immune dysfunction. And thyroid medication and medicine does nothing for toxicity. So the avoidance of toxins is really important. Also, you may need to remove them from your life and environment. In some cases, you may need to do a serious detox. I actually did an interview already with another lady who developed autoimmune symptoms. I don't know if it was Hashimoto specifically, but had some real serious issues when she had mold toxicity in her house. So that's another episode you can go back and find and listen to if you want. And I actually also should probably add to this list that in some cases, a lot of autoimmune disorders, even things like Hashimoto's, can be triggered by Lyme disease as well. So if you're not getting to the root cause of why you have all these issues and you've tried some of these diet changes and medication and things like that, and you still feel like crap, you may want to take a look at, do you have like a Lyme problem or a mold problem? Those are some of the common things. And for me personally, I'm pretty sure that I got it or at least contributed to it from mercury poisoning in my mouth from cavities that had mercury from when I was really little and they started leaking into my bloodstream. And I have been to a holistic dentist to get them removed, but the damage was already done. So I'm pretty sure that that's a lot of what caused my Hashimoto's. Now, I may have some other root causes I haven't figured out yet. A lot of it's rooted a little bit in trauma, which I'll be doing some other episodes later on that, which I've had some of that too. So in short, Hashimoto's is a complex condition that involves the immune system and the endocrine system. And while, your thyroid medication, hormone therapy could be necessary and even essential for a lot of people, you really want to investigate the underlying autoimmune factors that contribute to your Hashimoto's to maintain optimal health. So you really want to have a combination of things like making sure you get good sleep, addressing your nutrition, your exercise, your food sensitivities, your toxicity, things like that. And so you're really going to want to do some kind of an integrative approach with functional and conventional medicine in order for you to really get to the bottom of your health issues. And I will include a link that you can use to schedule a free call with me if you would like to talk to me. I can share with you some of the things that I've done, give you some good ideas about where to go when it comes to medical doctors, what kinds of doctors to work with, how to find the right ones, different things like that. And a couple of other things for you to consider that I have also done separate episodes on that you may want to find would be, I found infrared light and infrared sauna to be very beneficial. And then I have also used some essential oils, although primarily these were just if I was, having a little bit of discomfort, like in the throat area near my thyroid, or just felt like I needed some for some energy. And I'm not going to go into a lot of details on those right now. That would really be a separate episode and a separate topic, which, you can also contact me about as well. So, anyhow, hopefully you found some of this information helpful in helping to discuss why the thyroid medication isn't enough for your Hashimoto's. And I hope to hear from you soon, and hopefully you will be able to take action and start feeling better really, really soon.